Singing in the rain, just singing in the rain.
Oh, come on already.
So much for Southern hospitality, all right. Yeah, it's happened to all of us at one time or another. You've got something planned, a baseball game, a barbecue. You go outside and lo and behold, there it is. It's raining to beat the band. Well, it's like Will Rogers once said, everybody complains about the weather, but nobody does anything about it. Well, unless you happen to be Dr. Evil and have your own weather station in your backyard, we're going to have to learn to live with what we have. So what we're going to do in this video is we're going to take a look at some very simple ways of actually predicting the weather. Now, sure, we've got all sorts of technological tools that are going to make the prediction of weather so much better than it's ever been before, but we're going to take a look at some simple techniques that have been around for literally centuries in predicting the weather, and in doing so, we're going to predict our weather with accuracy of 24, 48, even 72 hours with good accuracy. But one thing you got to keep in mind whenever anybody is predicting the weather, the further along you go with your weather predictions, the decrease in accuracy you're going to get. When people are predicting weather for the next month, for the next year, even for the next century or so, you've got to remember that there are so many variables involved that very often these predictions just go by the wayside as being absolutely wrong. Now, if you happen to have a Doppler weather station in your backyard, I'll bet you're the coolest guy in the neighborhood. But if you don't have something like that and you still want to predict weather, then we're going to be able to do so using just three simple tools: types of clouds, barometric pressure, and wind direction. Now, let's start with the clouds. You see up there on the top right, that's what we call a cirrus cloud. Sometimes they're called horsetail clouds and like that. When you see that, it's way up high in the atmosphere. That means that the weather is going to be clear and dry, probably for at least 24 to 48 hours or so. Next, underneath that, those are going to be the stratus clouds. When you see that, you know things are not going to be really that good. Notice how dark gray they are? That's because of the fact that you've got so much moisture over there. These clouds tend to grow horizontally. Normally when you see stratus clouds, you're going to have precipitation for quite a while, 12, 24 hours. In New York, where I'm from, when we saw something like that in the middle of the winter time, we started praying that school was going to close, because that normally meant a good 12 inches of snow on the way. Directly underneath that, you see the cotton ball clouds. Those are called cumulus clouds. Unlike the stratus clouds, which grow horizontally, the cumulus clouds grow vertically, okay? You've got lots of up and down drafts inside those clouds. When you see those clouds like that, that means that you're going to have clear, dry weather. They're called fair weather clouds. Usually, though, it's part of the leading edge of a cold front, and the temperature is going to decrease a bit. Finally, the one on the right, that's what we call a cumulonimbus cloud. Those types of clouds are nasty clouds. They are growing very, very rapidly. If you've ever been in a plane and you've experienced turbulence, what's happening is you're flying through cumulonimbus clouds and the air is going up and down and the plane happens to be in the middle, and boy, that can be a real thrill. When you see those types of clouds, that's going to be associated with hail, lightning, severe thunderstorms, and usually tornado warnings are going to be associated with that as well. Over here in the mid-Tennessee state region, we know that whenever there's severe thunderstorms in the area, the possibility of a tornado is going to be a very, very real threat after that. Next thing over there, a barometer. The barometer that you see there, $5 or $10, no big deal, okay? We've got different types of air pressure. Now, high air pressure is associated with clear, dry weather. Low air pressure is going to be associated with stormy, unstable weather. Normally, air pressure is the weight of the air pressing down on the surface of planet Earth, which is usually about 16 pounds per square inch, a little less than that. We know as the air pressure increases, the weather is getting better. As air pressure decreases, the air is not getting that good, and you're going to start to see stormy weather. But a lot of people don't quite understand what we're talking about when we're talking about air pressure. So I've got Hurricane Hannah over here, and she's going to help me demonstrate what I'm talking about when we're talking about air pressure. Now, right now, let's imagine her head is going to be the surface of planet Earth. Over here, these books are going to represent air. Air can either come down or it can go up. Now, when the air starts to sink, it's going to be resting on the top of planet Earth. Right now, the air pressure is increasing because the air is sinking. And as the air sinks, there's going to be greater and greater air pressure. As the air pressure starts to increase, the weather starts to get better. But because it's increasing air pressure, what happens is people who are prone to migraine headaches, this tends to trigger attacks like that. Now that's decreasing air pressure, which creates high pressure. But the air can also rise. When air rises, it's taking the pressure off of planet Earth, or in this case, Hannah's head. So what's happening is rising air is associated with low pressure, but as the air continues to rise, the weather is going to change from clear, dry weather. Now it's going to move over to very unstable weather that we're going to associate with storm activity. Now, how do we measure this type of air pressure? Well, depending upon where you are on planet Earth, here in the United States, we measure it in units of inches. The rest of the world measures it in units of millibars. Now, normal air pressure here in the United States is 29.92 inches, or if we're going to go in different parts of the world, 1,013.2 millibars. Now, as the air pressure starts to increase, the weather starts to get better. So as it starts to go from 29.92, let's say, all the way up to 30.6, that's increasing air pressure. The end result is the temperature, everything is getting nicer and nicer. However, when we go back to the original pressure, where it's going to be 29.92 or 13.2 millibars, when the pressure starts to decrease, then the weather is going to start to get more and more unstable. The lower the air pressure is, the more dangerous the weather itself is going to be. For example, Hurricane Katrina had a reading of 920 millibars, or just a little bit above 27 inches. So, high air pressure, nice weather; low pressure, unstable weather; very low pressure, dangerous weather. That's where you're going to start to see your hurricanes, tornadoes, and all that other neat kind of stuff. Now, wind direction. Wind direction is measured by the direction that the wind is coming from. So a north wind is coming from the north. An east wind is coming from the east. Now take a look over here at the map of the United States. If we're talking about a north wind for Tennessee, what that means is that air mass, that wind, originated in the polar regions of planet Earth and started to work its way down across Canada, across the northern states, and by the time it gets to Tennessee, it's still going to be delivering cool air. The opposite of that is going to be a south wind. That means it's going to be originating from the equatorial regions of planet Earth. It's going to be working its way up, and that means it's going to be bringing warm air as well. So north wind is going to be cooler weather, south wind is going to be warmer weather. If it's coming from the west, if it's a west wind, notice it's traveling across the United States, no major bodies of water, so it's not going to be able to pick up moisture, so that's going to be dry weather coming in. If it's an east wind, it's coming from the Atlantic Ocean, the only state it's going to go across is going to be North Carolina, so that's likely to be moist air. Then you've got the weird combinations of that stuff. A northwest wind is going to be cool, dry air. A southeast wind is going to be warm, moist air. So you know what, guys? Look at what we're dealing with. It's not brain surgery. In fact, we're going to have a lesson on that in a couple of weeks. Make sure you catch that one. But all we're talking about to predict weather is types of clouds, barometric pressure, and wind direction. Easy peasy, lemon squeezy. It doesn't get any easier than that. Now, here in the great state of Tennessee, because of certain geological forces at work, meaning the geography of what Tennessee is like, that's going to trigger some very unique forms of weather that are going to be characteristic of Tennessee. That's what we're going to be doing in our next session. We're going to concentrate on just Tennessee itself. Now, I know you're excited about that, but patience, grasshopper, patience. And we're done.